Mr. Depp, before the break, we were talking about how your finger got injured in Australia. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to pull up Defendant's Exhibit 394, please. Mr. Depp, do you recall Mr. Rottenborn showing you this exhibit during your cross-examination?
Yes, I do.
And can you please explain when, relative to your finger injury, you sent this text message?
That's the day before. Am I correct?
At the bottom it says, I cut the top of my finger off. What should I do? Except, of course, go to a hospital.
Australia, exactly. The time difference, sorry. Yes. That's what I said.
And so when, relative to when your finger was injured, did you send this text message, to your best recollection?
This looks like it's at the time to me.
And in the middle here it says, her obsession with herself is far more important. She's so fucking ambitious. She's so desperate for success and fame. That's probably why I was a choir mate. What did you mean by that?
Unfortunately, I meant exactly what I said in this text. It seems it had become clear that there were she seemed to take more care and importance in going on auditions, going to the Met Ball, or going to any sort of premiere or opening or whatever, where she could be photographed.
Scope the question, Your Honor.
Right.
Sorry?
I believe he was responding to what he meant by what he wrote in his text message.
And then he said I meant exactly what the word said, and now he's going beyond.
All right,
scope.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Thank you, Mr. Rottenborn.
Your
Sir,
Honor,
if you could just answer the question, Mr. Depp, please.
Certainly,
Direct your
sorry.
attention just to your attorney, okay?
Sorry, Your Honor.
Mr. Depp, last week, Mr. Rottenborn showed you an audio recording where you referenced your finger getting cut off in Australia. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to play a different portion of that recording that came before the portion that Mr. Rottenborn played. So if we could please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 343, and we will be playing the portion from at 1 hour, 54 minutes, 11 seconds to 1 hour, 56 minutes, 10 seconds.
It's early, it's quick, it's so not, you're not interested in not fighting. You are guaranteeing a fight. When you do that, and I've told you this so many times, you guarantee, if you were interested in not fighting, you would be respectful if you needed the space you would be careful not to perpetuate the fight longer by saying, I need a few minutes, and then actually honoring that. How can I trust you that it will be a few minutes when you've done this in the past and disappeared for hours? You know, I got mad at you in Australia about this. I said, baby, I want to trust you. It's hard for me not to try and work it out. If you want to be the person that's like, I need to cool down, help me do that, give that to you. But I can't give it to you if you always let me down and fuck up and forget.
Because I gave you a time limit, because I said I'll be back in 3 minutes. So I'm just...
No, it's
if that
different.
If it happens...
It's different. You never...
If it happens, I'm just going to say, look, I need some time. That's it.
I'm telling you, that will make it worse.
No.
I guarantee you it will.
If you're fucking throwing punches.
I'm not talking about throwing punches. I'm talking about an argument.
Right. In arguments, you tend to throw punches.
I'm talking about arguments. I'm not talking about the times when it's got physical. I'm talking about arguments. I'm talking about arguments. I'm talking about arguments.
Yes,
Talking
in our
about
argument.
fights. Earlier and earlier and earlier. Now you split. You take off right away. You don't deal with the issue. You don't deal with the confrontation, and you split. Whether it is, and then you do it for an undeterminate amount of time. You do it without actually respecting. When you do give me a time, like say I need a few minutes, you never.
Mr. Depp, whose voices can you hear in that audio recording?
Ms. Hurd and myself.
And there was a mention about Ms. Hurd getting mad about something in Australia. What did Ms. Hurd get mad at you about in Australia?
There were many instances where Ms. Hurd would get upset, angry, and argumentative and violent in Australia. There were many times. The one that was the day when my tip of my finger disappeared, that had to do with a phone call. When she arrived in Australia, she complained that an attorney who was explaining to her the
Objection, Your Honor, is hearsay as to what he alleges her attorney was explaining to her. That's clearly
We
hearsay.
can move on, Your
Okay,
Honor.
yes, ma'am.
In the context of this audio recording that we just heard, what, to your understanding, is Ms. Hurd referencing when she says you split?
I would excuse myself from the situation. I would try to get away so that nothing escalated. Because if given the chance to allow things to escalate, Ms. Hurd would take it to the very extreme, which ended up with my finger being chopped off. So I rather thought it was the best idea to avoid things like that.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 272. I believe this is another document that you saw during your cross-examination. Do you recognize these text messages?
Yes,
And these were after your detox on the island, is that right?
that's correct.
Now, where it says here, this was the right thing to do to speed up the process, what are you referring to there?
When we were on the island and I was going through the process of detoxing from the opiates, which was a very unpleasant and powerful, painful process. It wasn't working with Miss Hurd there. I could not properly detox, as every day was another problem or this or that. So I asked we leave the island and go back to Los Angeles, and I asked Ms. Hurd if she would please allow me to get a bungalow at the Beverly Hills Hotel where she and her friends could go for, I needed 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, anything I could get where I could finish the detox by myself without any unnecessary interruptions or unpleasant interruptions. To which she replied that she was felt like I was throwing her out and abandoning her, and after all she had done for me. When the fact is, though, no matter what I wrote to her mother and to her, I needed the time, because I would have gone straight back to the pills. I would have not been able to detox properly without that time alone. And she reluctantly gave me the time. And I sent her and her friends to Beverly Hills Hotel and in a bungalow, and went through the detox by myself in Penthouse 3 for the next 5 or 6 days.
Mr. Depp, last week, Mr. Rottenborn showed you a video that was taken of yourself where you're slamming some cabinets. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
First of all, where are you in that video?